Hey everybody, this is William from the Godzilla Files coming at you today with a review of Kong Skull Island. I just bought the Blu-ray earlier last week, or late last week I should say, and watched it over the weekend with my dad. And so I loved this movie. This movie was great. He enjoyed it. Even my stepmom really enjoyed the film. So that was actually surprising. Um, So, yeah, I wanted to kind of just do my kind of do a review on this. I've been able to now kind of watch the film more. I only got to see it maybe once in the theaters, so I couldn't really tell you how I felt about it. But after watching it, have some things that I really liked about it, things that didn't really hold up. But yeah, so let's get right into it. The first thing I gotta say is King Kong. He looks great. This film is 2 years older than this film is 2 years after Godzilla 2014, and Kong looks amazing. I thought Godzilla looked great in 2014 in most shots. Some shots he didn't, but I thought overall he looked good. Kong looked amazing. The level of detail that was on him was astounding. I can't stress that enough. And all his shots, all his cool shots, everything was just really well done. I felt like they really put a lot of money into this film, and it showed on the screen. Outside of Kong, other things I really liked about the film was that it was fast paced. The last time we had a Kong movie was I think like 2005-ish, right around there, with Universal's King Kong by Peter Jackson. That was a really good film, in my opinion, but way too long. It took us an hour to get to Skull Island. It took us another, half hour to get to Kong himself. Felt like it was just too long. This one, picked up the pace. It was fast from the beginning to end, and that's something I actually really enjoyed about it. It felt more like an action-adventure film. And I know that might turn some people off because Kong is kind of looked at as this like cinematic masterpiece, and it's always been the same story, no matter how you do it in some way. But I felt that them being conscious of not doing the same old Kong movie actually worked in its advantage. I liked the fact that it wasn't a remake. I did not want to see a remake. Plus it probably wouldn't have fit in the monster universe anyway, because how do you explain, Monarch is supposed to be this secret organization. So, doing that original story that, you've always seen, where he goes to New York and everything like that, would not have worked, because Godzilla and the Mutos are supposed to be the first time, we've ever seen anything. So, or at least the general public has. So, that to me, wouldn't have, this original story wouldn't have worked. So going in a different direction actually helped them a lot, in my opinion. Some of the human characters, were enjoyable. I felt that, while most of them were kind of forgetful, like I can't remember any of their names, their characters interested me enough throughout the whole film that I was invested in them, I would say. Samuel L. Jackson's character was great. He kind of worked very well as a villain, but his actions and his motivations wasn't like villainous in any way. So I liked that about him. Tom Hiddleston's character looked. I liked him in Marvel as Loki, and so seeing him in this film in a different light, I definitely enjoyed him. Even Brie. The girl, I can't remember her name. I just know her first name's Brie. She'll be Captain Marvel. A lot of Marvel actors in this film, believe it or not. But they were all very good. Now, not to say that all the characters were good. A lot of the army men just, didn't really do anything. They were standard army men, in my opinion. But overall, everyone was at least enjoyable. There wasn't any characters that were completely out in left field, or that should not have been. Put it that way. C. Riley's character, who's been stuck on the island since World War II, he's crazy. But the reality is, being on an island alone, I shouldn't say alone. He had someone, but basically being on an island like that, isolated from the world, you're gonna go a little crazy. So his character made sense to me. But again, overall, there wasn't a character that I think that's gonna last for a period of time. You know what I mean? Like, you're gonna be like, oh, I love this character. There's nothing like that in this film, and that's fine because King Kong is supposed to be the main attraction to this, and that's really set up really well. One fight scene in particular that I really liked was actually Kong versus the giant squid. It reminded me of, King Kong versus Godzilla by Toho. So I thought that was a nice little, little homage kind of thing there. I don't know how many people realize that in the, when I went to the theater or even when I was watching it with my dad and my stepmom, but I liked it a lot. I was like, oh, this is great. It looks so much better than the one in 62, so definitely really cool to watch. Some of the shots that they had in this film, when the helicopter's coming at Kong, all those kind of, the way the film looked was beautiful, and the shots that they chose were great. When they used slow motion, when they did certain things, I loved it. I thought they really picked their shots and nailed it, 100%. Something about the Blu-ray as well is the special features. I actually like them. The Monarch Files is actually really good. I like all the behind-the-scenes stuff. If you can get the Blu-ray or DVD, I would definitely recommend that because I actually really do like a lot of the special features. Even the last Godzilla film, for their special features and everything like that were also really good. So I'm so used to getting a Kong film or mostly Godzilla films with no special features. So when we get things like this, I actually really like it a lot. Film fits nicely with the timeline that the MonsterVerse is trying to go with. I like the fact that it's a bit of a prequel. I really had no objection with anything. It fits everything kind of pretty well. And also it sets up the fact that Kong is still growing. So Kong will actually be able to... I don't think he's going to be the same height as Godzilla. I don't think that's ever going to be the case. I think he's always going to be a little bit smaller. But at least he's not going to get stomped on, by this Godzilla. So that's really good. And who knows, they're probably going to redesign the Godzilla to make him maybe a little bit smaller. You never know. So yeah, I'm going to touch on some things that I didn't like about the film, and then I'm also going to touch on the end credits scene afterwards. So, some things I didn't like about the film, besides Kong, most of the other giant monsters or kaiju are pretty standard or boring. Like the skull crawlers, that scene in the trailer and also in the movie where he's like, I never said the name out loud. It's stupid now once I heard it. It is stupid. Like, it really is. The skull crawlers look cool to some extent, but I don't know, they just like the Mutos in Godzilla, they just kind of look generic, and so that's unfortunate. It doesn't take itself too seriously. The tone kind of changes throughout this film, and that sometimes works, but it also doesn't in scenes. So, if you're looking for a serious film, this isn't going to be it, but it's still done in a serious nature. So it's kind of hard to describe. There's parts that are going to be serious, but then there's also going to be comedy as well. So, which isn't bad, but, sometimes the tone can be very different in one scene. One thing I will say is that even though I like the fact that this seemed to be not the typical Kong film, that I felt that they kind of went out of their way to be anti-Kong. And, it works in some ways, but then it doesn't. Like, I would love to have seen dinosaurs. They kind of hinted at them, but Skull Island didn't seem all that interesting. So I thought maybe, they could have done something a little different there as well. Being like the original isn't a bad thing in certain aspects. I didn't need a full-on remake, but maybe taking things from past films would have been a little better. Original score was pretty good. It wasn't anything that crazy that I'm not going to remember. It's not like the Godzilla film, which I thought had great music. But there's always time for them to work on that as we get further along in this movie series. As I mentioned before, human characters not all that interesting. None of them are going to be memorable. So that was one thing I disliked. Or it's there's going to be no one that I really wanted to see come back, but even though they probably couldn't, there wasn't anything. I was like, okay, those were nice for this movie. I'm okay with this, and then we'll move on with other people. So that was one thing. That was unfortunate. I felt, and sometimes I felt Kong. Some of the scenes were cool, but when he was using the propeller and sliced the skull crawler's neck, that's a really cool scene. But also at the same time, I was like, it throws you back because you're like, he's supposed to be somewhat of a monkey, and I know that's not the case in this film. He's kind of like a hybrid almost, but it just felt like, it just felt weird. Like I didn't know. I can't describe it. It threw me for a loop when he did that because it just didn't seem natural, but still looked really cool. So I understand why they put the scene in there. All right, so the final thing I want to talk about is the end credits. The end credits was probably one of the best parts of the film, and I hate saying that because William liked the Godzilla reference in the Kong film, shocker. But it sets up the whole entire MonsterVerse so well, and it got me so excited. I'm not going to explain what's going on. I mean, you probably have already seen it, but if you haven't, I'm not going to spoil it for you here. But it sets up what's going to happen in Godzilla versus Godzilla 2. I think it's going to be King of the Monsters. I'm sure that title might change, but it sets up everything in that film so well. I can't wait. It made me so excited for what's next in the MonsterVerse. It's going to be too long. It's going to be like 2019. This film's coming out, which is terrible, but that's okay. We'll wait, and I'm sure it's going to be good. Even right as of this recording, San Diego Comic-Con's been going on, so they actually showed some stuff with Mothra. And I'm sure they're going to start doing that a little bit more often to kind of keep people interested in the next Godzilla film as well. So I'm excited. Overall, though, this film is really good. I cannot stress how, I think they learned their lessons from the last Godzilla film, built upon it. Yes, it might not be perfect, but really listened to what the fans wanted and gave us a really great film. And I think that's one that I think more people, as time goes on, will actually be going back to this film because it overall is just an enjoyable action adventure, something you can put on and, watch with someone else, and everyone gets entertained in some way. That's the one thing. This movie is so entertaining, and I'll be shocked if I ever hear anyone say that they didn't like it. I'm sure there's something we can find for everybody in this film. So, but yeah, so that's it. I hope you enjoyed the review, and I will be talking to you guys later. Bye.